Hi there, and welcome to the Study and Learning Centre's Graduate Research and Know-How Workshop series. I'm Jen Anderson. This is the fourth and final in the module on editing and proofreading. The first workshop looked at editing the macro structure, that is, the chapter headings and subheadings. The second focused on paragraph and sentence structures. The third focused on editing for academic style, and this one focuses on proofreading. Proofreading is the final stage of editing your document. It involves checking for the accuracy of spelling, grammar, punctuation, and layout. Like the other stages of editing, it requires absolute concentration and precision. What you're aiming for is consistency in the form of English you choose. English is a language that offers quite a few alternatives, so consistency is not necessarily easy to achieve. Here are some useful proofreading tips. We've looked at these in other workshops, but we're going to review them again. Never proofread just after you've finished writing. You'll be too close to the text and not be able to see any mistakes. Try to leave at least 2 days in between. And never do it in a hurry. Always take your time. You'll need to read every word, every comma, every full stop. I read aloud when I proofread because I can catch the punctuation or grammar problems better if I can hear them. After I've done 2 run-throughs, I give my drafts to a friend to read. This is no ordinary friend. This is the friend that is very fussy about language, the born proofreader. Always proofread at least twice, once for spelling, grammar and punctuation, and once for the layout. Break up the tasks so you can concentrate on a limited number of things at a time. Try not to jump around the document. Proofread one section of a chapter at a time. Always proofread your figures and tables separately. Check the caption numbers, the style, and the details. Aim for consistency. The best advice for maintaining consistency is to set up a template with heading, text, and paragraph styles. There's a link on the main page to a tutorial for making Microsoft Word templates. If you're using other writing software, learn how to create a document template using that software. Be aware of the typos you usually make and check for these. For example, when I want to write from, I usually write form. Spell check doesn't pick this typo up because form is a recognizable word. Talking of spelling, it's important from early on to decide if you're going to write your thesis or dissertation using an American, Australian, or British spelling system. You could discuss this with your supervisor. Academic journals have their own house styles, including spelling, so make sure you follow their guidelines when submitting research papers. I actually keep an A to Z list or glossary of technical and preferred spellings, which I refer to when I'm proofreading. This is a tip I picked up in the RMIT University Writing and Editing course. You can also refer to the academic word list tool if you're not sure about spelling, or if you'd like to find an alternative word to one that you're using too frequently. You can find this word list tool on the RMIT Learning Lab. There's a link on the editing front page. Complete this activity. Here are some spelling nightmares in English. Do you know what each of these words means? Check the dictionary if you're confused. Pause the video now and do the activity. Now that you've checked the meanings of these words, proofread this text for spelling and punctuation. Pause the video now. Here are the answers. Did you find all of the problems? Pause while you check. Grammar needs checking, no matter whether English is your first or other language. Some people recommend using a grammar checking system such as the one built into Microsoft Word or the Grammarly app. These can offer basic support, but they may not give you the best advice on more complex issues. Still, if you struggle with grammar and spelling, one of these systems will definitely help. Verb tenses are really important in English because they carry a lot of meaning, not just whether an action is in the present or the past. For example, we use the present tense in introduction, literature review, and discussion chapters or sections to highlight the importance and factual basis of the statements we're making. And in the result findings section or the literature review section, we write about research results in the past to demonstrate certainty and a completed action that cannot be undone. The pronoun we has a very specific meaning, particularly in the sciences. It's used to highlight original and significant contributions to the body of scientific knowledge. We found that suggests a breakthrough of some kind. Nominalization is an important feature of academic style, and it is discussed in some detail in the workshop presentation on academic style grammar. You can see the link on the editing homepage. There's quite a lot of confusion about when to use which in a clause and when to use that. Well, here's the rule. When you use which, a comma should come before it to create an independent clause, which can be removed to leave what you want to be the main point of the sentence. In the example here, the main point of this sentence is that the research found a likely cause of the tumour. The journal in which it is published, contained in the independent clause, is of secondary importance. When you use that, there is no independent clause. There are no commas showing that any part can be removed. This means that everything mentioned about the research is important, both for discovery and its publishing credentials. Which one do you prefer in this case? I think I prefer the version that places emphasis on the discovery, the first one using which. Of course, the Lancet is a very high-ranked journal, so it could be that the second one is also a good one to use. We've mentioned in the presentation on academic style that it's important to use tentative language when you're accounting for your results in the discussion section or in the conclusion when you're highlighting the implications of your research. Getting just the right amount of probability is important. For example, if you use could, you are less convinced about the possibility than if you use can. These little words have a powerful ability to raise the reader's trust in your capacity to measure the significance of your research. If you underplay or overplay your research, you strike a false note for the reader, thereby reducing your credibility. Finally, a simple point of grammar that all of us need to check. We need to make sure that the subject, singular or plural, agrees with the verb, singular or plural. For example, research is an uncountable noun and is always single, and therefore the verb that comes after must be in a single form. Research shows. All three methods is plural, so it has to be are that follows. And each is singular, therefore its verb has to be singular too. Each of the techniques has. Now for some basic punctuation rules. Like spelling, punctuation matters because it changes meaning. These two examples show just how important a small comma can be. If you are not sure how to use commas, it's best to go online and get information. Look carefully at the examples offered and then practice with your own writing. The Australian Style Manual 6th edition has some very clear examples in it. Some of you are likely to start having a love affair with the semicolon. It looks sophisticated and it feels more flexible than a full stop. We suggest that you control your romantic feelings and only use the semicolon in two ways. First, use it in partnership with the colon for developing lists with complex clauses or sentences. You can see in this example that a colon marks the main sentence, which announces that a complex list will follow. Each item in the list is a complex clause finished by a semicolon. Notice how they have a similar grammatical structure. A second possibility for using the semicolon is when you're providing a second contrasting clause which opens with a conjunction such as however, nevertheless, or therefore. Check out more examples online. Keep your eye out for this structure in academic journals in your discipline. Quotation marks also carry meaning, so you need to make sure that you set up a system at the start to distinguish between items placed between double quotation marks and items placed between single quotation marks. For example, you may decide that any words in double quotation marks are a direct quote from an author. These are fully referenced with the page number. When you want to mark a commonly used expression as having a specific socially situated meaning, such as the generation gap, you can use single quotation marks. Of course, you may decide to use this system in reverse, but remember, don't mix them up. Be consistent, because one type should always be referenced and the other type does not need to be. Try not to use the plural apostrophe. It's quite jerky for the reader and stops their train of thought. Perhaps this is one reason why in academic texts we turn words that commonly go together into what we call noun collocations. We write participant responses, not participants' responses, consumer behaviour, not consumers' behaviour, and chemical reaction, not chemicals' reaction. Start to notice how noun collocations are used in your field of study. The final stage of proofreading is to check that the layout of your document is consistent all the way through. Before you start writing, you should check that your document follows university or research journal guidelines regarding layout and style. For example, do they give recommended font sizes for normal text, subheadings and headings? Do they specify line spacing and font style? Do they require a specific margin size? Setting up a document template master and making use of it as you write each chapter really helps you to create a consistent document. This does not mean, however, that you do not need to check it at the end. All sorts of inaccuracies can occur, even if we're very careful. If you're using images, tables and figures, try to ensure that they're easy to read. Leave enough white space in them and around them so that the reader can attend to the meaning. I love this quote from the witty and clever Oscar Wilde, who certainly knows about the power of the comma to change meaning. If this happens to you, don't be surprised. Remember, proofreading takes time and concentration, so make sure you set aside time to do it. And don't forget to check out some of the interesting links on the editing homepage. Happy proofreading!